The NFL has officially reached uncharted territory. Week 11 was a huge week for defining the storylines that are going to shape this year's playoff race. And these storylines are not something that we're used to this decade because for the first time in the 2020s, aside from the Eagles and Rams, we have teams in pole position that have not been in pole position. And the teams that we've been used to being in pole position at this time of year, a la the Chiefs and the Bills under Mahomes and Andy Reid and Allen and Sean McDermott, yeah, they are the ones that are playing catch up. And it creates an interesting dynamic the rest of the way that we're not used to. Let's start with the Chiefs and Broncos, who are basically the thumbnail of this uncharted territory that we find ourselves in right now after their game this past Sunday, which, for all intensive purposes, was for the AFC West. Because Denver entered this game 2.5 games up in the division, even though it might not have felt that way. Their defense has obviously been excellent this year, but they've had to eke out a lot of games. Think the ugly ones against the Jets and the Raiders. Think of the comeback wins like the 30-pointer fourth quarter against the Giants, the one in the link against the Eagles. And this is in large part due to the struggles that their offense has had, especially in the passing game over the course of this season. But their exceptional defense and their insane fourth quarter efficiency has allowed them to close out games. And they're 7-2 in one-score games, and as a result, they have some impressive wins that have put them in this position. And they played a Chiefs team who was 5-5, but on the flip side, it didn't really feel that way, right, with the Chiefs. This is honestly the best the Chiefs have looked in a regular season, especially offensively, in years. Just think back to 2 years ago in 2023 when we had serious concerns about this Chiefs offense. And then in 2024 when we were considering them so lucky for eking out games like the Broncos are doing now, when they were 11-0 in one-score games. But this year, we have regression to the mean in that regard because they were 0-4 in one-score games entering this one. And maybe it's historical bias in me or just the fact that it feels inevitable when it comes to the Chiefs and that overall it's kind of felt like they've been the better team than the Broncos over the course of the season. But I thought the Chiefs would somehow find a way to win this one. But they didn't. The Broncos, thanks to their defense forcing 2 pivotal 3-and-outs in the fourth and their offense having the 2 back-to-back closeout field goal drives, pulled this one out. They got the win. And just like that, with 6 games to go, they're 3 games up in the loss column on the Chiefs for the AFC West. And if you look at their schedule, if they take care of the Commanders and Raiders coming out of their bye in the next 2 weeks, all they need is 1 win out of these last 4 games. And this division is theirs for the first time in a decade. And forget the AFC West. They're in play for the number 1 seed in the AFC. We've not seen this version of the Broncos in this position before. And so as the pressure mounts to close out this AFC West and go get that number 1 seed in the AFC, it will be interesting to see how they answer the call, especially the concerns that they have with their passing offense, which does not reflect that of a typical 9-2 team in this situation. And on the flip side, as good as the advanced metrics say they are, the Chiefs are now 5-5, and they've fallen to 0-5 in one-score games. Ultimate regression to the mean. And they are now playing catch-up for a playoff spot for the first time in the Patrick Mahomes era. And the teams they're chasing right now for those spots, the Chargers, the Bills, and the Jaguars, they've already lost to this season. They don't have the head-to-head tiebreaker on any of them. And when you consider they still have to play the Colts, they still have to play the Chargers, who they lost to already, the Broncos, who they just lost to again, there's a very real possibility that the Kansas City Chiefs miss the playoffs. Now, I still think the Chiefs will end up making the playoffs because I do believe what the advanced metrics say and what I've seen from them this season. But the fact that we're at Thanksgiving and this team has this little margin for error is something we've not seen before. And that's what's going to make them the main storyline the rest of the way, especially if it gets even more dicey. Now, the Broncos and Chiefs are not alone in their respective unfamiliar positions, because something similar is going on in the AFC East, where the Bills have been a staple atop that division as much so as the Chiefs over the 2020s, ever since the fall of Brady and Belichick. But this year, we have the rise of Drake May and Mike Vrabel. The New England Patriots, just like the Broncos, are 9-2 unexpectedly. And for them, it's thanks to one of the best and most explosive passing offenses in the NFL, as Drake May has taken a serious leap in his second season. But like the Broncos, they too have their own criticisms of their resume. For them, it's their schedule. They've been able to play the Jets, the Browns, the Falcons, the Titans, the Saints, the Dolphins, the Raiders, who they actually lost to. That's 7 out of what most would consider the 10 worst teams in the league currently. So their strength of schedule is the easiest in the league, and it's not even close. But they also have their statement wins themselves, like one against said Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. The Patriots are in the driver's seat, deservingly so, especially considering 4 out of their last 6 games are against the Bengals, the Giants, the Jets again, the Dolphins again. But as they become the hunted now the rest of the way, can they close it out? That's a question we've never seen this era of the Patriots face. And then there's the Bills, who, thanks to their letdowns on offense and with their run defense in Atlanta, and then in Miami, which has now cost them the head-to-head tiebreaker in all likelihood with New England. If the Bills want to go get this AFC East division, just like the Chiefs, they have no margin for error at this point. At Thanksgiving. Hi, future me here, because I recorded this before the Texans game, which now that the Bills have lost that, their margin of error for the AFC East is down to near 0. And honestly, that race might even be over if the Patriots just take care of business against the teams they're supposed to beat. And let's take a second to recognize the importance of an AFC East title to Buffalo this year, in a year where their biggest perennial threat is likely, if they even get there, going to have to go on the road 3 weeks in a row to get to the promised land that they've been vying for all this time. This is their best opportunity, but they're going to be playing catch up the whole rest of the way to have that best chance. And that is also something we've not seen the entire 2020s. These were the 4 most obvious teams that exhibit this theme around the league, but just look around. They're not alone. Think about the Colts, who we talked about in the midseason video, who are in pole position for the first time since Andrew Luck was roaming the building. Think about the Seahawks, who have gotten a revitalized Sam Darnold again and are redefining the ways we think about defensive personnel, which as a result have them in clear pole position for the playoffs for the first time since Russell Wilson was roaming the building. Think about the Chicago Bears, who are first place in the AFC North for the first time since 2018, thanks to 3 comeback fourth quarter wins in a row. Each of these teams have been awesome stories this year. They're all in pole position for the first time in a minute, and these quarterbacks and coaches are at the top for the first time. But as the pressure is about to dial up now, so is each of their schedules. The Colts have to go to Arrowhead this week. They still got to go play the reigning division champs in Houston twice. They still got to go at Seattle. Speak of Seattle, they still got to go play the Rams again. They still have to go play the Niners again to try and close out their playoff spot. And then there's the Bears, who, in order to clinch the NFC North, are going to have to beat what was the best of the NFC North and the Lions one more time. The Packers, they still got to play twice, their arch nemesis, who they've never been able to get over the hump of in recent years. Oh yeah, and speak of that current old guard in the NFC North, the Lions and Packers, each thanks to their own offensive inconsistency so far this season, are now in their own position where they're playing catch up and have very little margin for error the rest of the way. Because if the Seahawks and 49ers keep playing like they've been playing so far this year, one of the Lions or Packers is going to be on the outside looking in come January, unless they can both unseat the Chicago Bears. Pressure's on for much of the current guard across the league. And as they rise to the challenge, that pressure will be on the new kids on the block too. This is a first-time experience for this era of the NFL, and it makes for a playoff push unlike any other.